Welcome to all for this session. This is K. Manjula, Assistant Professor in Commerce, Dr. BRR Government College, Jadcherla, Mahabubnagar. Now, today we are going to deal with the scientific management. Now, scientific management started in the 20th century and it is called as the Second Industrial Revolution. This Second Industrial Revolution helps to get management successful or helps the management to be successful in getting fruitful results. So, the scientific management was popularly framed by Frederick Taylor. He is called as the founder of the modern scientific management. Now, this scientific management came into existence with the expert suggestions of the Frederick Taylor. Whatever the personal experiences are there, that personal experiences of Frederick Taylor are together pooled, and a modern management theory has come into existence, that is the scientific management. And he says that Taylor has started his career in a small machine shop as an apprentice. He joined in a small machine shop as an apprentice and later he rose to the level of engineer. So his position has been increased to a level of engineer. Now, in between these apprenticeship and to the level of engineer, Taylor had many experiences in the work situation. Now, all his experiences are framed in a scientific management theory. Now, he says that management should concentrate more at the shop level, that is, at the ground level, because unless these ground level workers are satisfied, production will not be there. Satisfaction of people at the shop level leads to increase in the efficiency of the workers, and in turn managers feel satisfied at the production level. So Frederick Taylor says that a manager or a company has to concentrate at the shop level or at the ground level, because unless these people are satisfied, production will not be carried on, and once these people are satisfied, there will be an increase in the production and efficiency and quality in the production, and this leads to the satisfaction of the managers, in turn leads to the achievement of the objectives of the organization. So this scientific management is proposed by Frederick Taylor. That is the reason he is called as the founder of the modern scientific management theory. Now, what are the major elements of scientific management? On which elements does Taylor has built this theory? What are the elements he considered for building the scientific management theory? He says that separation of planning and doing. Planning is actually done by the board of directors. That planning, execution, and doing work is done by the managers. So there is a separation of planning function and execution function, planning function and doing function, and equal division of work and responsibility between labor and management. He says that there is an equal division of work. There should be an equal division of work. One person should not be given more work and the other person should not be given less work. So all the people in the organization should be treated equally, and equal division of work should be there in the organization. Responsibility should be assigned equally between labor and the management. So the first important element what the Taylor proposed is there should be a separation of planning function and the execution function, and work and responsibility should be equally divided between the labor and the management. Next, the second one is replacement of old rule of thumb method of management by scientific method. Whatever the old rules are there in the management, old principles which are followed in the management, that should be replaced with the scientific principles of management, with the scientific techniques of management. Next, third one, scientific selection and training of workers. Now, before employing people in the organization, Taylor says that the selection procedure should be scientific, following the screening process, selection process, and if there are any trials that are to be done, any training is there that is to be given to the employees. So, all the selection procedure and training which is given to the worker should be based on scientific principles. Next, fourth, absolute cooperation between labor and management in work performance. Now, the success of the organization depends upon the cooperation between the workers and the management. Whatever the policies that are framed, whatever the goals that are targeted, they can be achieved only when there is a mutual cooperation between labor and management. So, minimum conflict should be there, or if it is possible, to see to it that there are no conflicts in the organization. This creates an homely atmosphere and a sense of belongingness among the people, and they render maximum service to the organization. That is fourth one. Fifth, determining time standards for each job through stopwatch study. Now, what is this stopwatch study? If a particular person has been given a work is assigned to a particular person, before assigning only, manager has to specify the time within which the work has to be completed. Whether it should be completed in 2 hours or 3 hours or within a half day. Time standards should be set for each job so that they can maintain discipline in doing the work, and it is completed according to the time standard set in the organization. Next, last one is differential piece rates of wage payment. He says that employees in the organization should be paid, their wages should be paid according to the number of pieces they manufactured in a particular day, not according to the number of hours worked. Every person work for 8 hours in the organization. Take for example, A is working for 8 hours and B is also working for 8 hours. Now within these 8 hours, A produced 10 units, B produced 6 units only. Now if hours are taken into consideration for payment of wages, then both will be getting equal wage because both worked for 8 hours. But when we see the piece, A produced 10 units but B produced only 6 units. So by utilizing 8 hours, B can also produce 10 units. But he wasted some of the time in the organization. That is the reason he could produce only 6 units. So what the Taylor says is, instead of hourly rate wages, it would be better to pay wages on the piece rate basis. So these are the major elements of scientific management. First one is separation of planning and execution function, and equal division of work and responsibility between labor and management. Next, second, replacement of old rule of thumb method. Instead of following old rules, scientific management tools are to be followed in the organization. Next, third, scientific selection and training of workers. Fourth, there should be an absolute cooperation between labor and management so that there is a maximum possibility of work performance. Next, time standards are to be set for each job, and wages should be paid on the basis of piece rate. So he says that these elements should be followed in the organization so that management is successful. Next, important concepts in scientific management. Now, what are the important concepts which are to be studied? He says that scientific determination of task can be on time study, motion study, and fatigue study. What is time study? In the time study, Taylor says that what is the time actually taken by the worker to complete a particular task. A task is assigned to all the workers in the organization X, Y, Z, and so on. X could do that work in 5 hours, Y could do that in 4 hours, and Z could do that in 6 hours. The same task is assigned to all the three people X, Y, and Z. X is taking 5 hours, Y is taking 4 hours, and Z is taking 6 hours. Now, if we observe the time taken by the people in the organization to do that particular task, Y has taken less time to perform the same task. He took only 4 hours compared to X and Z. So it says that Y is more efficient than X and Z because he could complete the same task with the same standards in a less time. So this is called as time study. Observing what is the time taken by the employees to complete a particular task given the same situation under the same conditions. Next is second one, motion study. Motion study is movement of workers is studied in this situation. Generally, employees before performing a particular task, they need to assemble all the resources. They should consult some of the people in the organization and they'll be moving here and there for completing their task. What is the number of movements done by the worker? X how many movements he made, Y how many movements he made, Z how many movements he made. The study of movements of the people in the organization for performing a particular task is studied under the motion study. Next, fatigue study or fatigue study is a type of frustration among the people for performing a particular task. What are the levels of frustration? And whether they are fed up with the organization or not, whether they have any negative feelings for the organization, or where they are dissatisfied in the organization. That dissatisfactory contents or whatever the fed up of things or what is the situation that causing them unrest are studied in fatigue study. So a task should be determined. Taylor says that a task of the worker should be determined based on time study, motion study, and fatigue study. So these are the important determinations which help in assigning the task to the employees. Next is improvement in the method and conditions of work. Now, how the conditions of work can be improved? How the work improvement can be done in the organization? First is standardization. Setting a particular standards of work is important. Based on that standards only, work is to be completed in the organization. So standardization or standard work should be proposed in the organization. Next is second, routining and scheduling. What are the routine tasks that are performed? And what are the tasks that are to be scheduled in the organization? They should be scheduled accordingly so that there is no disturbance in the work. Schedule of work is very important so that it can be carried on smoothly. Next, instructions card. Instructions card is giving instructions to the employees before they are doing their work. Observing how they are doing their work and giving instructions to the subordinates. That is instructions card. Next, fourth, selection and training of workers. Employees should be selected in such a way that they should cope up with the conditions of the work. Whatever the conditions of work that are there in the organization, they should be adjusted to the conditions of work, and if possible, training should be provided to the employees. Next is supply of raw materials. Timely supply of raw materials is most important for the improvement in the conditions of work or method of work. This helps in continuity of production, and workers are more enthusiastic when raw materials are supplied at regular intervals to the workers. So these are necessary for improving the conditions of work, setting standards, scheduling the work, giving instructions, selecting such type of employees where they can improve the conditions of work, and if necessary training should be provided, and supplying raw materials regularly to the workers. This helps in the completion of the task successfully. Now next, Taylor introduced one more important concept, that is functional foremanship. In his theory, he proposed functional foremanship. Now, functional foremanship sees that what are the different functions to be performed by the manager. What are the different functions to be taken into consideration? Now, first foreman he proposed is planning foreman. Now, under planning foreman, there are four persons: route clerk, instruction card clerk, time and cost clerk, shop disciplinarian. Now, the first person, route clerk, this person specifies the route through which the work should pass. The route is specified by this person, wherein the process should start from and end. So the work should proceed on according to the route specified by the route clerk. His important work is to specify the route so that work would be carrying on in that route only. That is route clerk. Second, instruction clerk. The name itself indicates that this person is responsible for giving instructions to the people who are working. If there are any deviations in the work standards, or if they get any doubts, those doubts should be clarified and regular instructions should be given by instruction clerk. Next, time and cost clerk. Now this person observes the time taken by the person to complete the task, and what is the cost of work that is performed by the subordinate. All these are assessed under third. Next, four, shop disciplinarian. This person is responsible for maintaining discipline. That is, he observes that work is going on according to the route, and he is following the time, and he is following the quality standards set by the instruction clerk. So all these are studied under disciplinarian. This person is responsible for maintaining discipline standards in that work process. So under planning foreman, these four persons help the workers to do the work: route clerk, instruction clerk, time and cost clerk, and shop disciplinarian. The next foreman is the functional foreman. Now, under functional foreman, there are four persons: gang boss, speed boss, repair boss, and inspector boss. Gang boss is he is the boss to a particular group or gang. That group of people should report to the boss. If they have any doubts, they should clarify them with the gang boss. Next is speed boss. Now, this boss is responsible for seeing the speed of work done in the organization. At what extent or at what speed the work is going on. That should be observed by the speed boss. Next, repair boss. The name itself indicates that if there are any repairs in the machinery or if there are any repairs in the organization, factory, that repairs are to be checked by this boss. That is the reason he is called as repair boss. Inspector boss, he regularly visits the workplace and inspects the work done by the people in the workplace. His main purpose is to see whether the work is going according to the standards or not, whether people are performing the work regularly or not. Observing all the people in the organization is the work of inspector boss. So, functional foreman consists of four persons: gang boss, speed boss, repair boss, and inspector boss. Now, these foremen are to be followed for carrying on the work smoothly. So, all these things come under Taylor Scientific Management. So, Henry Fayol proposed modern management theory. Taylor also proposed modern management theory, and that is according to the situations they have faced, according to their personal experiences. They framed the theories of management. The next important aspect is leadership. Who is a leader? And what is the need for leadership qualities in the organization? Why there should be leadership qualities in the management? Or why a manager has to inculcate leadership qualities? It has seen that it is an important aspect of management. Leadership is an important aspect of management. Now, it is an interpersonal process of influencing the behavior of individuals. A leader influences the behavior of individuals. He can make the people work, he can make the people influence, he can break the people to not to support his work. So, he has the qualities to get the work and to break the work in the organization. So, he should have an interpersonal process of influencing behavior so that group should be directed in such a way that objectives are achieved. He should direct the group of people in such a way that organization's objectives are achieved. A leader directs and motivates the members of the group. Not only he guides, but also he encourages the people in the organization to work. A particular manager represents his group to the outside world and outside world to the group. Now, if people are working under a production manager is responsible for the total group. All the group people are represented on the name of production manager only. So, a group is represented to the outside world and outside world is represented to the group by the leader. Now, Kuntz says that leadership is the ability to exert interpersonal influence by means of communication towards the achievement of a goal. Kuntz says that By means of communication, we can influence interpersonal behavior of individuals. A word with peacefulness or a word without harsh nature can make the employees motivate to do the work. So it depends upon the communication, how we are communicating with the subordinates. Proper communication, smoothful communication helps to improve the interpersonal influence among the people, and this helps in the achievement of a goal. Now, Keith Davis says that leadership, the ability to persuade others to seek different objectives enthusiastically. Again, he is saying that it is nothing but you are persuading others so that they work enthusiastically. Your behavior is persuading or influencing others, motivating others to work enthusiastically in the organization. That is the definition of Keith Davis. So, the main important aspect of leader is, or having leadership qualities is, he should direct the group in such a way that they are giving their total support to the organization so that objectives are achieved. Now, what are the qualities of a good leader? A great leader creates more leaders. It is natural. Always subordinates are influenced by the leader. They think that they should be like their leader. So it is nothing but you are creating a sense of motivation among the people. A good leader creates another good leader. A great leader creates another great leader. So what are the qualities that influences the subordinates? First, there must be group of followers. Always a good leader has a great number of followers. He influences them in such a way that they want to follow that person. For example, if we take the pictures, people try to be like Amitabh Bachchan. They follow the Amitabh Bachchan. People try to be like Rajnikant. They follow the hairstyle and the style of Rajnikant. And in case of Abdul Kalam, scientists want to be like Abdul Kalam because he is a great leader. So people generally follow great leaders. If a person has large number of followers, then he is assumed to be a great leader. Next, second one, leadership is a personal quality. It is a personal quality. It can be neither created nor destroyed, or nor can be developed. It is from his inherent nature he becomes a good leader. It is a personal quality. Leadership is a reciprocal relationship. Yes, if I am communicating properly with my subordinates, it is reciprocal that they communicate with me properly. If I am harsh with those people, they try to be harsh with me also. So it is a reciprocal relationship. Leadership is a reciprocal relationship. Next, leadership is an art. Everyone does not have that art. Painting is an art. Everybody doesn't know how to paint. Those who are expert in that, those who have the skill, they can only draw the pictures. So leadership is also an art, and that skill they have by their personal quality. Next, leadership is the process of influencing the behavior of others. The whole theme of leadership is that a single person is able to influence the other person. He is able to influence the feelings of the other person. That is the main important quality of leadership. You are able to change the behavior of a particular individual, or you are in a position that you are occupying a particular place in that person's heart. So these are the important qualities of leadership. There must be group of followers. Leadership is a personal quality. Leadership is a reciprocal relationship. Leadership is an art. And the foremost thing is leader has to influence the behavior of other people in the organization. So in order to be a good leader, that person has to inculcate all these qualities. Now, what is the importance of leadership? First one is directing group activities. A good leader is one. He has to direct the group activities. Whatever the activities that are given to a particular group, those activities are to be guided, and those activities are to be performed according to the standards prescribed. Next, a better utilization of manpower. A good leader is one where whatever the manpower given to him, he utilizes all the people in the group to the maximum extent. All the people's work is taken by the manager if he is a good leader. If he is not a good leader, one person will be supporting and the other person will not be supporting to him. And he cannot achieve the goals of the organization. So, if a person is a good leader, it helps in using the resources of the organization or manpower of the organization to a maximum extent. Next is source of motivation. Now, leadership or a good leader acts as a source of motivation to the employees. If he is properly maintaining relations with the subordinates, then it creates a sense of feeling among the employees that they are taken care by the organization. And this motivates the subordinates to work for the organization. So, leadership creates motivation. Next, developing human relations. Now, leadership helps in developing good human relations among the employees. A good leader maintains proper contact with all the subordinates. He maintains good relations with all the employees so that he can know what are the situations that are there in the organization, where the people are facing difficulties in the organization, or what are their doubts in the workplace, or what they are feeling about the organization. All these things will be known by the leader when he maintains a good relations with the employees. Next, communication. Communication is another important aspect because all the above things cannot be achieved without communication. If I talk with the subordinates, I'll be knowing what are the problems actually. And if I am behaving like a superior and a boss, I need not communicate with the subordinates, then I don't know what is actually going on in the organization. So, a word helps in getting the work done. So, communication is most important in leadership. Next is the representation. Group are represented by their leader, because all the people names are not known in the organization. This group is referred with a particular leader. Now he represents the group to the outside world. A leader represents the group to the outside world. So group will be recognized only when there is a proper leader. So these are the importance of leadership. If a manager is a good leader, then he directs the group activities and it helps in the better utilization of manpower. It creates a sense of motivation among the employees. Now, all these are possible only when a leader is a good communicator, maintaining good relations with the employees. So, this helps in building future leaders. Now, in the picture, it is shown that leaders of tomorrow, they lead, encourage, act, dream, empower, rise, and succeed. So they dream about a particular task, they act according to the dreams, they encourage, lead, subordinates, they rise to the particular position and they succeed in their task. So these are the importance of leadership qualities or importance of leadership. Organization, if it want to be successful, has to make the managers psychologically aware that they are a part of the team and they has to maintain proper relations with the employees. So all these are possible only when there is a proper communication between the top management, middle management and the lower level management. Whatever the scalar principle I said, scalar chain, that scalar chain principles should be followed successfully. That is authority flowing downwards and responsibility flowing upwards, so that everybody in the organization feel responsible. Thank you.